How's it going, YouTube? Coming in today with another video, and today, guys, the video is going to be the ban list prediction. Now, the last two ban lists we got were at YCS's. One was directly after a YCS, and one was at the very end of a YCS. So I'm assuming, because 3 months is March, YCS Vegas is going to be the target date for our next ban list. Which is interesting because I don't really feel like we need too much, but there's definitely a few cards that need to be addressed. At the end of this month, we do get Maze, which allows Ryziel to search Lancia via 7th Tachyon. That card's going to be very strong moving forward. Then, we have YCS Rhode Island coming up, where the weekend of, we get a Lion's Insight, and that's going to be one of the craziest sets of the year. That's going to be really annoying because it's going to be a mad scramble for cards. I really wish they would stop doing that, but this ban list should be in effect for both of those events. So it's definitely going to be very interesting to see how we're going to be able to adjust on the fly versus all these changes that we got coming up to the format. We do have a lot to talk about today, so if you haven't already checked out my sponsors over on RW, Cloud, Gem, Arla, Imperium, Dragonshield, or Grimoire, definitely go ahead and do so all down below in the description. Also, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel so we can hit 30,000. If we hit 23,000 subscribers in the next couple days, that would mean that I would have gotten 1,000 subs in the last month. Thank you all so much for the support. I appreciate it so very much. YCS Orlando, there's probably the most people I've ever had walk up to me at an event ever, and that was the coolest thing ever. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for the support, and let's hop right into the ban list prediction. Now, do we really need a ban list? No, I don't really think that we need a ban list. I think need is a very strong word, but do we need a couple things to make sure that the format can stay healthy? I think that's more accurate. We don't really need anything at the moment, considering that we have the next couple sets coming up pretty quickly. Although we do have 7th Tachyon coming out, so we don't really want to see the Ryziel deck be even more full power, because, like, objectively right now, it's kind of toxic where the percentage is at. We're at 52.6%, including the Mitsurugi into Ryziel, because it's just Ryziel at that point. It doesn't matter if it's Fiendsmith Ryziel, P Ryziel, or Mitsurugi Ryziel, it's all Ryziel. So we're over 50% right now into Ryziel, and I feel like that's the only reason why I could see us really needing a ban list, just because this has to get addressed, right? We don't want to sit in a format like this again. Although I prefer tier 0 formats, I prefer formats where we just have a deck that just is be all end all and it's mirror, 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 because I think that's the best way to show skill expression. But at the end of the day, that's not really the community's take. And that's something where I do like seeing a lot of people enjoying the game. I like seeing what we saw at YCS Orlando. We capped the event. That's amazing. That's something that I want to see more often. So, although I understand what I enjoy, I understand what the community enjoys. So I think that it should be something where we see a ban list that addresses something like this, so it won't be that big of a problem moving forward. Now, for the first ban, I could see one of two things happening. You either ban Lacrima or you ban the ways to get generically into the Fiendsmith engine. Now, there are other ways to get generically into the engine, but these are the easiest ways. Lacrima ban here I could really see for a couple of reasons. One, you limit the amount of Chaos Angel access by getting rid of Lacrima as your light level 4. Now, there are other ones in the Ryziel deck, but that would mean that you'd have to commit your Ice to a Chaos Angel play, and that's definitely not always the easiest thing to do, or even the thing that you really want to do. So that's one thing that I could see happening. The other thing, too, is Lacrima is just your constant recursion, and if you ban this and you don't ban Requiem, you can actually still use the engine. So that's another thing where I'm seeing Engraver getting reprinted in, like, Stampede, right? That just seems obvious. So if you don't ban Requiem, I think the only reason that the engine became a super problem was because of Lacrima and access to Paradise. That has been just the most annoying thing possible. Like, you almost have to make a Dweller to just out the initial board, because you can start playing into the board without shutting off the access to Paradise. And I think that's the one thing that's been the most obnoxious. And not only that, but Lacrima is also just like the constant follow-up. So I feel like this card's been the biggest issue. I've seen a lot of people say Moon, but I think that if you ban Moon, you have to ban Exciton, because if you ban Moon, you're just saying that weaker decks like Malice and Goblin Biker and Memento and all these other decks that just like need a card to get into the engine, just don't have access, and then we leave Exciton free, and we're just like, yeah, the best deck can still do it. I think that you'd have to ban both, at least for the time being, just to make sure that, like, every deck has a fair chance at using the best engine. Whereas if you're going to cut it off from everyone, then you're putting everyone on you have to draw it, right? And I think that's a lot more fair than just like cutting it off from everything but the best deck. I think most people objectively agree that the best variant of the deck right now is going to be Fiendsmith Ryziel, just because it had the highest representation and also won the event. But that doesn't mean that Mitsurugi Ryziel won't end up becoming the variant that people just play. I do think that we should see the Dweller ban though, because this does hurt a lot of the other decks in the format right now. The second we start seeing a mandatory 3 of in the sideboard at Xyz Encore, just to try to out a Dweller when you're trying to play decks like Memento, I think that that's going to be a bigger issue. The amount of people at the YCS that say, you know, like, this is the format, if any, that gets Dweller banned, I have to agree, because there's just such an easy route for Ryziel just to be like, I'm gonna activate Dweller first, and then I'm going to combo. And then if you out the Dweller to soft once, I'm going to bring it back with Twin and do it again. And I think that's the problem for sure. This is a card that has to get dealt with because it's just shutting off access from a lot of other decks from actually having a chance. Now for my first to 1, I forgot about Trap Dust Shoot on this as well, but I think Talent, it's just time for it to go to 1. Gamma got put to 1 for punishing hand traps. A Pointer is banned. Confiscation, Forceful Sentry, banned. Hand Verification, banned, can't do it anymore. Deck verification, banned, can't do it anymore. I think that the fact that Talent allows you to be able to sculpt your opponent's hand and make sure that they can't play into your board and rip like the most important card out, right? I think this card has had its time in the game, and it's finally time for it to go down to 1. I think Thrust is fine. I think that's a card that really does access a lot of different things for a lot of different decks. But I think right now, Talent has been such an issue. The amount of times that I hear someone go, I lost because I Talent ripped hand, and I'm like, wow, that sucks, right? Because you shouldn't be able to have that kind of access to a hand knowledge where sometimes ripping a card isn't even the most important thing about what's happening. It's you literally know what their interruptions are, so you just use your interruptions correctly, and you just stop their turn outright. And you pray they don't top deck like a god card, right? So that's another thing where I feel like this card is just like overstayed its welcome, and we could really see this card get hit finally. But again, look at how many cards are gone just for hand verification reasons, deck verification reasons, and the ability to punish a hand trap. I feel like right now, hand traps are more important than ever, and it's the same situation as when you played against Dragon, and you wanted to Ash Chaos Base, but Gamma was at 3, and you're like, if I Ash this, they Gamma me, I auto-lose. And it's the same thing now. It's like, their first action, where it's like a really important spot to just stop, you Ash it, and you're like, if they Talent me and rip my only starter, I lose. If they activate Talent, and you're like, I guess I lose. Like, it just feels awful, and I feel like it's finally time for this card to at least just go to 1. Druisworm is a $25 super rare right now. It's no secret this card's been a playset in most decks, alongside even just playing it at 2. It's been most deck lists right now, and I think that's kind of insane just because of what this card's value is able to do. Just the ability to be able to banish something, summon itself out, and then also threaten something on the board has been a problem for a while. And this is more of like an indirect Malice hit overall, but I do think that this is a card that needs to go to 1. Magnumut's at 1, put Dru's to 1, Sarnir and Baldric are fine alongside Lubellion, that's cool. But just put the actual body to 1, because seeing multiple of these is kind of awful. The next one here to 1 is going to be Bonfire. We do get 7th Tachyon. I do feel like Bonfire has to go to 1, because there's no way we should have 6 Rhodas alongside if you're already playing 7th Ascension to search Tachyon. People clamored for Bonfire prior to this, but I do feel like now more than ever it's probably just going to end up going to 1, because we don't need that many starters, and alongside already having Thrust at 3, I think it's fine for Bonfire just to go to 1 finally. Heavy Storm, we don't really see a lot of back row blowout right now, nor is it very important. I think this is fine. It also gives decks like Unchained a chance to play, because that deck just like auto folds to a Fuos. So that's another thing where you kind of have to take that in stride as far as like what's going to be more effective right now and what's going to give decks a little bit more of that edge that they're looking for. The Mulch armies are very strong, and especially against decks like Yubel and Unchained, things like Fualos, it makes it unplayable. So having things like this is really cool just to give it another way to play the game. And then these are just all the 3. These could just all fall off the ban list and no one would care. I think the only thing that could like potentially do something is like Astrograph, but like Pendulum is so bad going second, so it really does suck to try to play Pendulum right now. So I don't really think that would even be that big of a problem. And I don't even know why Sekka's Light's still on this ban list. I say it every time. Why is it still on the ban list? It's not going to do anything. It's perfectly fine. But I definitely think that's an interesting one. But definitely let me know how you feel about the ban list prediction here, what you would change, what you think could go on there. I really don't think that we're going to see a ton of different hits right now, but I do think there's a couple that are very warranted. Definitely go ahead and join my Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and join my Discord. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you.